Welcome to the StoneRidge software video series for batch manufacturers. Our batch industry solutions are powered by Yavion ProBatch, running on Microsoft Dynamics 365 Business Central. In this video, we look at items, routings, bill of materials, and some additional feature functionality around those functional areas. So let's dig into Business Central. And we are going to start by looking at inventory items. And again, we're not going to talk about all the setup associated with the item itself, but we're just going to talk about the specific components that we want to address today. So opening up some Chipotle sauce, and I'm going to scroll down here to the replenishment system. So first thing to notice is we have a couple of different ways that replenishment can work. The first one is a purchase. This is typically a raw material component input that is going to be used in the manufacturing process. For your distribution, it would just be straight distribution, but it's a purchase. The next option we have is an assembly item. An assembly item allows for a multi-level bill of material, but it's really a single step of consumption and output. So a kit, if you will, although it doesn't have to be exactly a kit functionality, but that's the idea behind an assembly. Some of our manufacturing clients do use assemblies. So if I've got several items that might go into a box, a case, that sort of thing, I certainly can stock an assembly as well. So that type of thing around an assembly. Production order is where we're going to spend the bulk of our time today as it relates to Business Central and Yavion ProBatch. And with a production order replenishment system, that really is telling the system that we want to make this item. So with the base product of Business Central, I have the ability to set up a production bill of material as well as a routing. So production bill of material obviously is the multi-level bill of material. It could be raw materials. It could be sub-assemblies that are going to go into the output of this particular item. And then the routing is really my manufacturing process. So we're going to start by looking at the manufacturing specification that comes with ProBatch. What the manufacturing specification allows us to do is to manage both the bill of material and the routing in one place. So much easier management. And then we're going to get some additional manufacturing functionality around the manufacturing specification. So let's dig in and look at that. First thing to notice is version control. So we have the ability to keep previous versions of the manufacturing specification as well as future versions that we might be working on in the system. We have a unit of measure associated with the manufacturing specification. So if you have minimum batch sizes or if you even have different batch sizes that you might be manufacturing, we can facilitate that using units of measure. We do have a batch size on the manufacturing specification itself, and really what this allows us to do is have changes in a particular recipe based on the batch size itself. So if there's 1,000 pounds, 2,000 pound options, the recipe could change, or components in that recipe could change based on the batch size. The bulk of the page, though, or what we really want to dig into, is the manufacturing specification itself. So this is the detailed lines. As I said at the beginning, this is a combination of the routing and the bill of materials. So in terms of routing, we've got two options here. It can be a work center or a machine center. The design intent here is that a machine center would be individual things that would roll up into a work center. So if I've got multiple mixers, if I've got multiple lines that I want to include in the work center, each machine center has independent configuration in terms of capacity, volume, workload, a workday calendar. So this allows me to manage each of those machine centers independently, but then create the manufacturing specification, the routing, if you will, to a particular work center. So then I would determine during the production process which particular machine am I going to run it on. So some variability or some flexibility around that. For the bill of material itself, this can be comprised of an item. And this item could be a purchased item, could be manufactured, could be an assembled item, or a production BOM. So this allows us to do phantom BOMs if we want to. As it relates then to the items themselves, as I said, this is the system supports up to 50 levels in the bill of material. So this would just be, the subsequent input, if you will, could be from a manufacturing production process, etc. These next two fields, what this allows us to do is to separate material requirements to when they're consumed in the process. So if you have the scenario where maybe my components are weighed You go through a measurement step at step 1, so all of the materials need to be available, they need to be picked, they need to be at work center 1. I'm going to go through a measuring, a weighing step, and then I'm actually going to consume those in subsequent steps in the manufacturing process. These two fields allow us to separate demand from consumption, if you will. Next piece here is part of a recipe. And this is really key for ProBatch in the manufacturing specification. So what this allows us to do is to designate which inputs, which items are part of a recipe, and then we use this proportion percentage field to determine the composition or the percentages of each raw material component in that recipe. Okay, so the proportion percentage has to be 100%, and then based on any fluctuation we might have in the batch size itself, my recipe is going to automatically adjust. Okay. The component, though, could be production quantity dependent or independent. So maybe a good example of this would be a filter or a screen that needs to be used in the manufacturing process. So I mix a series of components based on that recipe, and then as their output, the material needs to go through a screen. I only need one screen. Doesn't matter if I'm making 1,000 pounds, 2,000 pounds, 10,000 pounds. I'm still only going to consume one. So in that case, that screen component would be independent, but it's going to be consumed as part of the manufacturing process. We also have the option to designate one of those inputs as a filler item. And what the filler item allows us to do is to account for variability in the components of the raw materials going into the process, and then top off, if you will, using that filler item. So oftentimes we see water, or again, a fill item if it's in the pharmaceutical area that gets us to the total volume of product that we want during the process. So planning can be accomplished according to that proportional percentage, and then actual consumption can adjust during the manufacturing process. Obviously, we can consume based on different raw materials for planning purposes at that raw material level. We do have the ability to do some scrap calculations. What the scrap percentage is going to do is it will adjust during the planning process. So if we know we're going to lose 5% or 6%, then it's going to gross up the requirements as we do planning. Couple of settings with ProBatch as it relates to lot management. So the first one from the same lot will allow us to control the ability to do split lots in the consumption process. So we could have a specific ingredient that we want to allow or not allow split lots. So that's what that control would allow us to do. Lot number inheritance is going to allow us to take the lot number that's on the component and pass it to the parent. So this is not about lot traceability. We still have lot traceability, source to usage, usage to source, through the warehousing function, through all the manufacturing steps, etc. That's all part of the system. What this is going to do is just control the lot number creation of the output. It's going to say grab it from the component, not create a new one. Expiration date inheritance is going to allow us to pass the expiration date on a component to the parent, allow that consistent expiration date to flow through the system. Status inheritance is going to allow us to take the status of a given lot and pass it on to the parent. So lot management is a different section of videos that we would cover, but the lot management allows us to manage the status of a lot. When can we consume a lot? When can't we? Who can we ship it to, etc. The status inheritance then is going to pass that status from the component to the raw material or to the finished good during the manufacturing process. Feature inheritance is that last one. Can't really see it. What feature inheritance, what that allows us to do is to track features in the raw material components, and then those designations move to the parent as well. So if I have active ingredient, if I've got maybe for food, I've got an allergen that's a part of a component, peanut allergy, for example, I'm using peanuts as a component in one of my raw materials. Just naturally, the finished good is also, or the output is also going to have that peanut allergy in it, and I want to make sure that that feature gets passed on. That's what that setting would do for us. Setup time and runtime related to the routing configuration. We're not going to talk about quality, but in this video, but in this section here, you can see that we have the ability to add a particular inspection to a step within the process. We do have different flushing methods that can be configured in the system. We can look at scrap, and I think that's all I'm going to cover there. So that's the bulk of the manufacturing specification itself. Up here at the top, just to highlight two things, header text as well as footer text. ProBatch also allows us to set up text either at the header of the manufacturing specification, the footer, or within the manufacturing specification itself. So let's actually look at a production order, and then I can show you how the text and how all this comes together. We have various statuses of production orders, so planned, firm planned, all that sort of stuff. We're not going to cover that today. I'm just going to go directly to a release production order so we can talk about that. So the release production order, maybe I went through the planning process, suggested a production order. It created this one for 5 pounds, I think is what we're making here. So just as an example. Couple things to show you here. One is the ability to take and modify the routing for this particular production run. So maybe I want to run it on a different machine or a different work center, etc. I can make changes to the routing for this specific order. It's not going to change the manufacturing specification, but it would make an adjustment for this particular order. I also can change the bill of material here. So if I wanted to substitute an item, I wanted to take less of one and more of another item, I wanted to add something else to the production order, etc. That is modifiable for this production order. Obviously, we can set security around those things so that can't happen, but we do have flexibility to make those changes as needed. All right, let's actually look at the output of the production order here briefly. And I'm just going to print this to the window. So the output of the production order is going to have a couple things on it. One, first thing to notice is we have barcodes that are available. So inherently in the report outputs, we have barcodes accessible for us, can be used for scanning, warehouse operations, that sort of thing within the system. But point out here, we've got several instructions that can be set up on the production order. So I've got some mixing instructions and I've got some packing instructions. These sets of text, it's freeform text, can be added at the production order level. This text can actually display on the purchase order and the sales order as well if you needed it to. So maybe there's instructions or something that I want to pass on either through the purchasing cycle or through the sales cycle. The same setup, the same configuration, the same text actually can print in all of those places. We also have the ability to do it at the operation level. So I've got specific instructions here for operation number 10 that can be configured within this system. We do have footer text. If I go way down here to the bottom, this additional instruction section, I just added that. So instructions for the footer as well. So text kind of anywhere you want in the system. Also associated throughout the system is the ability to print labels. So we're going to go here and I want to talk really about product labels at this point. So product labels, this is a sample. This is all configurable as well, but inherently with barcodes, the ability to put an image on it, track the item description, but we have access to the information associated with the lot as well. So if I'm looking for expiration date, data entry is some examples here, but if there's a lot status or some other information that's been tracked at the lot, I can have that print on the label. I'm showing you labels really at the manufacturing point, but we have labels that can be generated through the purchasing cycle, through the sales cycle, just independently, et cetera, that can be put onto products, pallets, wherever you might need them within the system. So fully configurable, again, with the data that would be relevant to your implementation. So that's what I wanted to cover today. And so just want to show you a couple links here. Follow us on LinkedIn, information on upcoming webinars and events. Check out our resources page at the Stoneware website to find additional links, more educational content. We have a lot of blogs, a lot of webinars, videos, that sort of thing that are available. To help you know more about the system. If you do want to talk to us, feel free to reach out, solutions@stoneridgesoftware.com. We'd love to connect with you, either a salesperson, or if we've got another technical resource that you want to get connected to, let us know, and we'll be happy to help. So thank you for your time today.